Hi, Sail Wars fans. I'm Bart, and I'm on scene today in West Virginia. And today we have a national champion who's gonna teach us the proper way to rig up a sailboat. We're gonna do it on EC12. So I'll let you hear it from his own mouth, let him introduce his own self. But I'm so excited to do this today. Now let's get going.
And now what we want to do is go ahead and lay the boat over on its side a little bit. And all that does is that allows the weight of the sail just to pull down on and give you a feel for where the shape is. So, setting up we've set the front bottom corner. Now we want to do the outhaul. That, when you pull it on, it flattens the bottom of the sail. So if we have it tight, like that's too tight, and then we let it go, you've got more curve or depth. That's called camber. And so I'm going to set it up a little more than is there right now. And I like easy adjustments. So I like bowsies because you can do them quickly. Some people have, it adds a little windage, and some people have Allen screws and things they can do. But then you can't bring the boat up to the shore, quickly change something. It takes more effort to do that. And I find that is not ideal. So we've now got the camber in the sail set up. And remember, light air, you want a little more of that. And next thing we're going to do, there's no adjustments for the main at the top, at least on my boat. So next thing we want to set up is the twist of the main. And that's set up by the boom vang down here. It's really nice if you have a boom vang that is got one reverse thread and one regular thread, so that you can just spin the middle and it automatically will tighten or lower. And so this also should have a jam nut. So if you look at the back of the sail there, if I tighten that, then it takes out the twist on the back. If I lengthen this, it puts more twist in the sail, especially at the about upper 2/3. And so where I've got it set up now is you've got a little bit of twist. I like a little bit of twist for a more forgiving sailor, meaning the boat is a more forgiving sailor. It is better for a pond where the wind isn't a constant steady velocity. And so for the beginning sailors, that's a good place to start. It's just a little bit of twist on the back of the main. Some people will say, oh, you sight down at the battens and see, and if you're reading big boat sailing books, they're going to talk about, you see where the battens are, and you want this one to be pointing, you know, kind of with the center of the boat, and these two a little less, and the bottom not as much. It makes the boat point better and be faster, but also the angle of attack has to be just right. And so for the average beginning sailor, I don't think that's a great idea. So now we have the main set up where we want it, and so now we're going to come back and do the same basic adjustments to the jib. Now the downhaul on the jib is actually not at the bottom on my boat. I've got it set up here because that's an easier place to have it for my length. Some people have it set up at the bottom, but again, you're tightening the leading edge. This one you don't have to loosen when you set it in the car because it automatically loosens the whole jib when you're taking off the backstay. So you can tighten that and make the angle of attack better. And so now we've got the downhaul, or some people call that a Cunningham, by the way. Now we want to set the camber, or the depth or fullness of the sail. And so I tend to make them both roughly kind of 2 fingers without forcing them. So like that one, actually I'm going to put a little more in. For the basic part, and 2 of my fingers is about 1 3/4. But again, I've got that set, so if you tighten it, then you've got way too flat a sail. If the wind comes up really hard, then you can tighten both sails, but especially the main, because with these 12 meters, otherwise the main will overpower the jib. And you want to, if the wind is really strong, you want to run off the jib mostly. So we can adjust that part. Now, there is no boom bang on the jib because it's a floating thing here. So instead, we've set up it with a topping lift. And the topping lift sets the back of the triangle. So basically what we do with that is, I've got another attachment down here, again on a bowsy, and you can tighten that or loosen it. And I've just loosened it, which in a way does the opposite of that, because that lets us come down, which tightens that or takes the twist out. And so if you want to put the twist in, you have to shorten the boom bang, or the topping lift. Okay, now to see where that twist is in the jib, we want to go behind the boat. So you want me to rotate that for you? What if I do like that? So now what I'm doing when I look at the twist is I want to match the twist of the main with the twist of the jib to make them fairly parallel, at least in the bottom 2/3 of the jib. So when you sight from behind, they should look like this trailing edge is about the same kind of a curve. Now, one thing I didn't talk about yet is the sheeting angle. Now, there's difference of opinion on how much to sheet in, but on the 12, some people will say, oh, we want to sheet up so the main is all the way at the corner of the transom. I find that for the average beginning sailor on the ponds, that's too much, because pond sailing is a lot of variable air and also typically lighter air. And the 12 meters don't do well if you're pinching. So if you shoot for there, I think that's too much for the main, except in certain conditions on certain lakes where you have nice free-flowing wind and it's fairly strong. But for the average sailor with a 12, have that out a little bit. And then for the jib boom, you want to set it up so that the back of the jib boom is basically aiming at that front shroud. That gives a nice slot in here to help power the main up and not backwind it. If you have the jib boom more like that, what's going to happen is as the air is coming through, it's going to backwind the main, and you're going to get a curve right here as you're sailing along, which is not fast. So don't do that. So, Bart, what have we not covered?
Well, I think you have pointed out everything I do wrong when selling an EC12.
Oh, one other tool you should have is get yourself a masthead fly or a wind indicator, whatever you want to call it. Mine is not high-tech. It doesn't cost a lot. This is a white piece of garbage liner, and I then did Sharpies for half of it, so you've got black and white, which is better for a background that's varying to be able to see it. And then you can see out there what the wind is doing on the lake, as opposed to where you're standing, you feel the wind right in your face, but out there you're looking at your boat going, huh, that's not the way the wind is out there. And you'll see things happen faster out there if you pay attention to what that wind indicator is doing. Telltales are nice but they're also reasonably complicated in the beginning. I'm not worried about telltales with beginning skippers.
So let's talk about when you're going downwind.
Okay.
Okay, because I've seen boats, or I've watched a lot of big races, and how far the sails actually go out, you know, to when they're going downwind.
Okay.
It can vary. I've seen some that go all the way to where they're resting on the shrouds, and then I've seen others that don't near, you know, they're maybe 4 inches short of that.
Okay, so that depends on who set up the rig, because let's assume for a minute, because most people nowadays are having winches inside, so the distance the jib goes out compared to the main is hardwired into the main winch line. So it all comes down to what's the distance from the pivot here to the sheet attachment compared to the jib, where the jib pivot is to the sheet attachment. And what I've found is to set it up, you want the jib to be slightly shorter angle or length so that it actually goes out a little bit further in the long run, because the main, as it comes out, the main can't go any further than that shroud. So if you've got it going out to about there, the main is already hitting there, that's plenty. But as it's going out, the jib will go out, it can go all the way to halfway. So I think it should go all the way to 90 from the center line.
Okay, and I've seen some people's goes farther than 90 degrees. Is that bad?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, in the big scheme of things, no, but it's not ideal.
So this,
because then you're spilling air. Because remember, when you're going downwind, the sail is not acting as a wing. It's purely acting as a surface area that the wind hits and it pushes. So the wing is gone. There's no windage over the leading edge of the sail. So if you're going past 90, all you're doing is spilling air. So if it went past 90, it would be spilling some air over there and not quite as efficient.
and something I'd like to point out to the newest sailors, sometimes when you're going downwind, it's actually a little bit faster to be pulled in a little bit with your sails. Of course, it depends the angle, but sometimes, you know, you'll see a boat past you and their sails are a little bit tighter than yours. So you got to pay attention to that too. So this setup that you just taught us,
yeah.
What winds are we talking about? 1 to...
That's a basic way to set it up, because most people are not sailing in 15-mile-an-hour winds. So for the average 8 miles an hour and less, that's fine. That's fine. As the wind comes up above that, you're going to start thinking about, if you have other A-rigs, you're going to think about switching to them for a heavier air. But at the same time, that's when you start sheeting in. But yeah, 7 or 8, you start thinking about, ooh, I got to make things tighter. And then the things you'd be making tighter would be the backstay, the downhaul, and you would tend to have your sails a little bit flatter and also sheet in a little more, and with your main adjustment for both.
So that's above 8 miles per hour?
Yeah, on a rough thing.
And at what point do we switch to a B rig?
With the 12 meter, realistically, if it's like 12 miles an hour, I start thinking about it. But if it's in the right in between, and I've already got my heavy A rig working, because I've got 3 rigs. I've got a B rig, a heavier A rig, which has a little less full sail, and then a light A, which is this one. But if it's right kind of in between, you already have 1 rig on, why change? If it's a lunch break and you're expecting it to be heavier air later in the afternoon, then go ahead and use that time to switch to a B rig. But if it's right in between, a B rig and a heavy A will even out at the end of the race. In other words, the Bs will be more controllable in the heavy gusts, but they won't have as much sail area for the other times. But it all comes out in the wash even. So that's the simple things on setting up a basic rig. Once you have your boat set up and you like the way it's handling, kind of get a mental picture of what the sail shape looks like so that you can try and duplicate it.
Something I'd like to add, after you get your boat set up and before you put it in the water, check your rudder to make sure it's actually facing straight, because there's been so many times when I thought it should be, and then I look down there, that last check, and it's not, and I just adjusted on my radio to the transmitter to get it back straight again.
Totally agree, totally agree. And also, one of the other things I do is if I'm at an all-day regatta where I've been racing, 4, 5, 6 races in the morning, and I'm going to race, 7 or 8 in the afternoon after lunch, is before you feed yourself, feed your boat. Put in a new battery. So just some basic rules of thumb, and then, like I said, when you're taking the rig down, be kind to your sails. They're your engine. And take the tension off the downhaul on the main, and put the sails away carefully, and don't store them in the hot car. When you get home, take them out of the car and hang them up. So, hope this helps you guys. I know these are all things we've been asked many times at the lake by new skippers, and come on out and sail 12s with us, or whatever boat your club is sailing, because that's the best boat to be sailing.
Yeah, and this is very true, and I know we all thank Jarl for giving us these tips, and I know I learned a lot, and this should be mandatory viewing for anyone that is starting into the EC12 class, because trust me, I have 27 different boats, and I sail just about every class, and the EC12 has been the hardest class for me. It's incredibly hard because it seems like everybody has 30 years experience, but these boats are beautiful boats. They're just so dramatic out there on the lake. So we thank you, and this is Bart signing off for Sail Wars. See you at the pond.
See ya.